so today we're going to do a crash course on using MyFitnessPal, how to set it up to hit your goals, and then I'm going to walk you through how I track a day. I'm going to screen record what I'm doing on my phone. It'll plop right up here, and you'll be able to really understand super easy. So the first thing we want to do is set up our custom goals. So you're going to go More, Goals, Calories, Carbs, Proteins, and Fats. First, we're going to update the calories that were given to you. And then you're going to notice that it's only going to allow you to adjust your macros within 5%. We want to just try and get as close to possible. At 30%, I'm at 128 grams of protein. 35, I'm at 149 grams of protein. My goal is 130 grams of protein, so I'm going to go with the 30%, and then everything else is good to go. Adjust these to fit your personal goals. Now on the home page at the top, you're going to see that it's trying to add back in our exercise calories. We do not want to do this. We need to ignore this. It's super annoying. It won't let you delete that feature unless you pay for premium. So you have two options. You can either make sure you ignore it, or if it's syncing with an app, you can delete all of your exercises from there. We want that to read as 0. So now that our goal is set up, we're ready to start tracking for our day. I'm going to tell you this a million times until you get sick of me, but the number one tip is to plan ahead. We are never going to hit these goals if we just try and wing it. I'm going to try and plan for the dinner that I want first. I know that tomorrow night I'm going to do, say, a pasta with meat sauce and hopefully some mozzarella. I'm going to plug each of those things in, and I'll show you how I go one by one. Pasta first. I'm going to come in, and there's a really cool trick. You just scan your barcode. And then something you want to do here, make sure that your serving size is correct. I'm going to have a full serving here, but if you were going to have a half serving, make sure you're updating that. Our next item, we've got some pasta sauce, right? So again, going to scan that barcode. Boop. Good to go. We'll scan the barcode. Good to go. Now I saved the most difficult, just slightly, for last. Let's talk about the meat. Meat is gonna vary in weight, whether you cook it and then measure it, or measure it and then cook it. So raw versus cooked. It doesn't matter what you do, you just wanna make sure that it's consistent and that you are inputting it correctly. If you are able to scan a barcode on the meat, this is gonna bring it up as raw, typically. We're looking at this, it's 1 pound, there's 4 ounces, 4 servings in here. So that's making sure that this is measured raw. Once you cook this up, make sure that you're getting 4 servings out of this, and then you're inputting it correctly. Now that you have your dinner input, you can see at the top that there's accounting for 480 calories of food so far. Tap the top, and this is gonna give you a breakdown. So far you've hit 46 grams of your protein, 46 grams of your carbs, and then 16 grams of your fat. We want to keep tapping the top every time we add more food in, so you can see how your macros are adding up. The next thing I do is I input the meals that I eat every day. I typically eat the same breakfast. It keeps things super easy for me, and I like it. The first thing I'm going to do is input breakfast. So my go-to breakfast is usually Greek yogurt. It's got tons of protein in it. And then I'll add fruit and granola, maybe some peanut butter and honey. The real reason I like this breakfast is because it includes all 3 macros. Let's say I plan my day out tomorrow and I'm way over on fat. I can cut out the peanut butter. Say I go over and I'm way over on carbs. I can cut my fruits in half. Having meals that include all 3 macros are gonna really help have a lot of flexibility in your day. Now we're gonna come to the food scale. I put my yogurt on the scale first rather than the bowl. Make sure it's zeroed out. I'm gonna put the bowl back on. I'll zero out again, and now I'm gonna get the fruit. Even though I'm eating a lot of similar meals, I'm eating yogurt, fruit, granola every day, we do want to try and look to mix up those micronutrient dense foods. I love frozen fruit. I love frozen vegetables. It makes things really easy to always have a good, healthy option. It's just as healthy as fresh. Raspberries versus blueberries versus mango. All those fruits have different micronutrients, and we don't want to just get stuck getting the same micronutrients every time. A really easy way to just keep your diet fresh is making sure that you're using different fruits, different vegetables, and not eating necessarily the exact same thing every time. Fruits, I do measure them. I'm not worried ever about eating too many fruits, but they do add towards our carbs, and they also add towards our fiber that we're gonna be tracking. Another easy way, if you don't wanna measure exactly, is about a handful. You just toss it in there. Finally, I'm gonna add granola. Granola is one of those foods that's deemed a health food, but it can really be heavy in calories and typically pretty heavy in fats. It's totally fine, you can still eat it, just a fair warning. And I'm typically always looking to measure in grams if I can. It's just the most precise, and it's also gonna be way more precise than using a measuring cup. I like to finish off with a little honey, and yes, honey does have carbs in it, so if you find yourself at the end of the day, you need some more carbs and you're not hungry, honey is a great source for that. As I mentioned, this is a meal I eat often. Now, you don't have to re-plug everything in each time. You don't have to scan the barcodes again. It has it saved. I'm just gonna swipe right, and it'll add my meal because I had this yesterday too. All right, so now we're up to 744 calories. Let's tap the top again. 66 grams of protein, 93 grams of carbs, and 20 grams of fat. The next thing I'm gonna add in is another thing I eat pretty much every day, which is my post-workout smoothie. Post-workout, we wanna try and get carbs and protein in within 30 minutes to an hour. And it's really great to have in smoothie form because liquids are just more easily digestible. All my smoothie stuff's here. One of the things that I try and do is I'm mixing up the fruit. So I had some raspberries earlier. Now I'm gonna go with mango, strawberries, getting different micronutrients. I also just take kale and I freeze that. It stays good for so long, and it's a really easy way to hide veggies in, getting a little extra green whenever we can. Finally, some whey protein. If you're dairy free, I would go with a pea protein. We don't want to rely on supplements, put an emphasis on whole foods, but this is one time where a protein shake is really gonna do us good. So now if we check back at the top again, we have about 683 calories remaining. We still need some protein. We still have a good amount of fats. We'll plug in our lunch. I really like whatever I'm making for dinner, make an extra serving, and that's what I'll have for lunch the next day. I don't like to cook a ton. This allows me to batch make chicken. Maybe I mix it up with the vegetables. Easy, again, to plug in if you're able to copy it. Let's go in and see how the lunch adds up. We're gonna try and look for chicken, grilled chicken. So we know that that's been cooked. We're gonna weigh it after we cook it. Now let's check our protein after that. All right, so we still have about 13 grams of protein left we need to hit. And then with that, let's say I'm just gonna have some asparagus. I like to keep it really simple for lunch. I do wanna remind you, let's say we throw those asparagus into the oven. If you're roasting them, if you're cooking with olive oil, that's totally fine. We just need to account for that. Let's check back again. Looks like we need fats and carbs. That's always good news. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna increase my granola quantity because I like that granola. Let me see where that got to. Still need some more carbs and some more fats, but that got me closer. So let's have some rice with lunch. Rice is another thing that we want to make sure we are measuring it correctly. Think how small rice is raw versus once it fills with water and it's cooked. I'm gonna pick the raw weight here. That got me pretty close on carbs. Now all I really have left is fats. I'm actually gonna take my cheese, because who doesn't love cheese? And I'm gonna double that serving size. Now I'm a little over in protein with the extra cheese, 8 grams away in carbs, and I still have some fats. I always like to encourage you to eat your fats. Olive oil is great, but if you're able to actually eat a food, it's gonna leave you feeling fuller for longer. Let's throw some peanut butter in with breakfast. Now we're still a little over in protein. We've got 4 grams of carbs. We're exact on fats. We're about 8 grams over in protein. I'm being pretty precise with you guys as an example. So let's go in and super easy update. We know chicken is basically pure protein. Come to 3 ounces of that. So now we're within 3 grams of our protein goal. We still have 4 grams of carbs left, and we have 1 gram of fat left, which that's not a lot at all, right? We're within 5 of each, which is perfect. You've seen that you're within 5 grams of all your macros, but you come to the main screen and you still have 92 calories remaining. The reason that happens is that food companies are actually allowed to estimate on their nutrition labels. The variations of calories can range up to 20%. I'm sure you've noticed that you've never seen a nutrition label that ends in 233, right? They all end in solid, full numbers. What we want to focus on is hitting the macros, because we know the macros are correct, and then your calories are gonna just fall into that. Also, within 100 calories is not something I would typically worry too much about. Now let's say you get to the end of the day and you're just like, I don't understand where all this protein came from. There's a little tip. If you are looking at your phone, we're gonna turn it sideways. This is gonna show you a breakdown of your meals. You can't see this in the landscape view, but now you can see meal 1, you had 28 grams of protein. Meal 3, you're at 22. Meal 4, we're at 28. And it's gonna give you a little more in-depth breakdown so you can kind of analyze what you're eating and where your calories and macros are going to. This is the point. We wanna learn what foods are fueling our body. Give this a try. The only way we're gonna learn this is to plug and play some options in. Until you plug a day in, we have to have somewhere that we can start with. I am not perfect. I still have days where I run out of a macro. Thing that I would suggest the most is if you are gonna go over your fats, try and take those from your carbs. We always wanna hit our proteins. We don't wanna take from that. I have a couple more MyFitnessPal tips in an additional video, but please let me know if you have any questions.